The fastest permit that we're able to get was from submittal issuance of the permit was 12 calendar days.
It's insane.
And this was for a garage conversion ADU in the city of Los Angeles in the West Hills neighborhood.
Hey Argy, how you doing, man? Good to see you. It's been a minute. It's our second episode.
Yeah, very excited.
Busy?
Extremely. Just all day site visits, checking out projects, going to the city for like plan check appointments, construction projects. It's been very busy.
Because of permitting, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's what takes the longest time, unfortunately. It's not even construction, just permitting for ADUs.
Like how long does it usually take?
On average, getting a permit for an ADU in Southern California is about 4 months. Some cities are quicker, 2-3 months.
What can slow down that process?
Plans that are not complete or properly done, or delays on the side of the architects. But I believe if the architectural plans are done correctly and in an optimal way, then you can really speed up the permitting process.
Okay, you said architect. In order to make plans, it takes a few different heads, right?
Yeah, most people think like, oh, I'll just get a contractor who'll get it done. But it actually takes like at least 3-4 different people, different professionals to build an ADU and to get permits for an ADU, right? So you have your architect, licensed civil or structural engineer, contractor, and then depending on the size and type of the project, you might also have a soil engineer or a land surveyor and so on.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Yeah. And then so each one of those people have to take it starts with a drafter, right? An architect, right?
Correct.
Okay. So the architect is technically the designer, designs it and understands what's already there existing. It's like a puzzle. They have to make sure that that fits in that property correctly, right?
Correct.
And then, so let's say they're the designer, right? And then you said engineer. And the engineer does what exactly?
Yeah, good question. So what the architect does is architect designs the structure based on the needs, preferences, and requirements of the client and make sure that that design of that structure meets building codes and that it is something that the city will approve. What the engineer does is then looks at the design that the architect put together and figures out how to make it safe, right? So safe for earthquakes, winds, hurricanes, if you're in the mountains from like the load of the snow on the roof and things like that. Just make it safe.
Okay. Yeah. Interesting. Okay. So just making sure the engineering is structurally intact and safe for...
Very important.
Okay. Gotcha. So they bring it to life. They make sure it works properly.
Right.
Okay. And then it goes to a contractor and then they're the ones that take all these puzzles and put them together, right?
Correct. So then the contractor basically takes the architectural plans, the engineered plans. From there, they're able to figure out, okay, how much lumber do they have to buy? How much concrete? What type of concrete? What type of wood? And then based on that, they can then go ahead and build it.
I see. Yeah. Okay. And then is it in order to get plans approved, when you say you go to the city and you make sure they get passed to the right people, and then it starts a timeline of a couple months, like you said, it could be four months, and depending on how big the project is, it could go longer, or if there are any corrections, those will be taken care of. So how exactly does that happen, the permitting process? You take your architectural plans, your engineering plans, you bring them to the city, and then is that something that the contractor brings to the city, or is that what they do? And then as a homeowner, does it then go to a contractor? How does that work? Is there different people involved?
Yeah, usually contractor is not the best person to go to the city.
Oh, that's good to know.
Yeah, because getting a permit involves a lot of paperwork, bureaucracy, waiting, doing something online, filling out forms, and so on. Contractors are best at what they do, which is building. Being on site, building, procuring materials.
Right.
So the person who is usually the best person to get the permits from the city is either a permit expediter or the architect themselves.
So to move this process along faster, it's not always the best idea to use a contractor in some cases unless they have a proficient team that does do all of this back-end stuff within their company. I see. So it's a lot of work, and not everyone can facilitate it by themselves. I would say, from what it sounds like, to move this process in the fastest way possible is by hiring a company like yourself to take care of all of these things and then expedite it through the city.
And if you're a homeowner and you have found a really good contractor, before hiring them for the full design and build, you definitely want to ask them, like, okay, who's going to be the architect that's going to be working? Make sure they have the right team, the engineer, the permit expediter, or maybe the surveyor, right? Because there's a lot of people that get involved in these projects.
I see. Interesting. So how fast was the fastest permitting process that you've done?
Yeah, we broke kind of like an internal record in our team. The fastest permit that we're able to get was from submittal issuance of the permit was 12 calendar days.
It's insane.
And this was for a garage conversion ADU in the city of Los Angeles in the West Hills neighborhood. And that was like, we were kind of shocked. Before that, our record was about 20 days, 21 days.
So no corrections.
Well, there were some. They were pretty minor.
How did you handle those, and how did it move so fast?
Yeah, well, first of all, wherever we can, we expedite it. And expediting permits is not some magic or extra money you pay or something. Expediting means, in this case, instead of submitting the plans online, we actually went in person. We printed out the plans. We sat down with a plan checker for like an hour and a half or two. We reviewed all of their corrections. We fixed the plan in person. Yeah, we revised the way that the plan checker wanted. We gave them all the paperwork. We paid the fees right there and the cashier, and done. The permit was done in like 12 days.
How many people do that? How many other companies do you think do that?
I don't know.
I mean, going in person like that is definitely going to expedite.
Yeah. There are people at the counter. Recently, a lot of cities, they do a shift to online.
Okay.
Like online plan checks, digital plan checks. But what we have seen is wherever we can go in person, we go in person because that's the best for our clients. Okay. That's the fastest, that's the best. And you actually have another human in front of you you can talk to. When you do online, you don't usually get a chance to talk to them. Or if you do, you have to really like track them down. You know, people like, including myself, a lot of times I find myself wanting to hide behind the computer and not talk to anyone and just review the plans and send it back. But when you do in person, it's like human to human. You look each other in the eyes and you talk about different issues and you find a solution. If you can't find a solution, they bring a supervisor who's like a senior engineer at the city.
That'll definitely expedite it and move faster. So what are corrections?
Corrections is the way that the city sends them their feedback on architectural plans for a project like an ADU or a single family home.
Okay.
So these include like actual comments on the plans saying this window is not up to code, this wall is not up to code, move this here, and so on. Or they can also be just get us this form, fill out this form, provide this.
Okay. And then when you do make those corrections, how long does the city have to respond to those corrections? It could be, isn't it like 30 days?
I believe so. Generally, it's like the average we've seen is about 2 weeks.
Okay.
The longest we've seen is very long, but typically the longest is about a month.
So it could definitely prolong the...
Absolutely. So you want to be as detailed in your response as possible.
Gotcha. Okay. And then obviously well, I don't need to say that. I was going to say your company, no, because it's normal, right? Our correction's normal. I'm going to say that. Okay. You ready? Yep. Are corrections normal?
Yeah, absolutely. Because architectural plans, even if we think that they're flawless or they're fully complete, they're always subject to interpretation by different architects, by engineers or plan checkers at the city. So the key here is not necessarily to optimize to not receive any corrections, but is to respond to corrections just in a timely manner and as fully as you can. Typically, you want to respond to corrections within 2 weeks.
Okay, nice. I've heard people building more than one ADU on properties. How do you go about that, and why would that benefit you?
Yeah, you can absolutely build more than one ADU in most places in California nowadays, right? So generally, you're allowed one ADU and one junior ADU, which we can talk about the differences later on. In some cities, like for example, the city of LA, as of January 1st of this year, you're allowed one extra ADU, meaning you can do one detached ADU, one attached, and one conversion junior ADU. So should we go through an example?
Yeah, let's do it.
So say you have a single family home with a good sized backyard. You can do an ADU in the backyard up to, let's say, 1,200 square feet. And then you can do an attached ADU, let's say a medium size, 600, 800, something like that. And then you can also take part of the house or the garage and convert that into a junior up to 500 square feet. So you can take this one house and potentially turn it up to 4 units.
Wow.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of people we work with, a lot of our clients, they do exactly that. One property, they add units, move on to the next property. And I think that's why our podcast is called One More Unit.
Yeah, exactly. I have a friend that's actually doing a build right now in Santa Monica, and he's building up to 8 units.
Oh, wow.
Is that how? Obviously, that seems a little different than what you're explaining.
Yeah, it's statewide legislation. It's within the last year or so. It's called SB 1211. It generally allows owners of multifamily properties to add up to 8 new detached ADUs. So let's say if you have a 9-unit apartment building and you have a large plot of land, you could build up to 8 units detached. So you could do another row of units separate from the main complex.
And you said it's 1-to-1. So depending on how many units you have,
right,
you can add that.
exactly. You got a 4-plex, you can do 4 more if the land permits physically.
Imagine how much it would appreciate your land.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I mean, you're creating, and you can do this on residential zoning, or is this only for commercial?
Well, wherever you have, I would say, conforming multifamily, legal multifamily with no violations and things like that, nothing out of the ordinary. If you got the ordinary kind of multifamily zoned property, or you can do like maybe could be even a residential, like a duplex, triplex, 4-plex. But it's not just the up to 8 units. You can also build 25% of attached. So let's say you have the 8-unit apartment complex. You can do 8 detached, and you can do also 2 more units attached. So it's up to 8 units detached plus 25%. So it's crazy.
Is this only being done in California?
Yes.
As of right now?
Other states might have different regulations, but
And
I'm not aware of
is
them.
it just due to lack of housing?
I think the market in many neighborhoods demands more density. Generally, you can only rent. There are legislations that were passed that are currently like being adopted by different cities. I believe it's AB 1033 or SB 1033. I kind of get confused sometimes between AB and SB.
There's a lot changing all the time.
But I mean, there are past ordinances, rules that allow for that, but I believe that it has to be adopted city by city. And also the private markets, the title companies, escrows, real estate agents, brokers,
Everyone's going to loan on that, right? Would loan. Banks,
the financing market.
I've heard about SB 9. What exactly is that?
SB 9 stands for Senate Bill 9. It's a California law that allows for single-family homes to have a second single-family home to be built on the same property, right? So you got an existing single-family house with a big backyard. SB 9 allows you to put another single-family home in the backyard or turn the existing house into a duplex.
How big can you go with that single-family home?
That, I believe there's no set maximum. If the lot is bigger, then you can go a lot bigger.
Okay.
Percentage.
And you can build 1 ADU on that lot?
Okay, so this is where like we need to talk about differences between the ADU and the SB 9 unit. An SB 9 unit is an actual separate dwelling unit. So it's on the same level as a single family home, right? It's not accessory. But ADU is accessory dwelling.
Right.
ADU itself is not a separate single family home, like on paper, right? It might physically be, but on paper, it is accessory. So when you do a 2-unit development, generally people then go and put 2 ADUs in the back, if the space permits, right? So then you can basically do like 4 larger units, 2 single family homes, 2 ADUs, and you got like an awesome compound. I was going to use that word.
Compound.
Yeah.
Very cool. So that's good for if you already have the land and you're a close family. Let's say you and your family are very close.
Yeah.
And with how expensive our city is these days, California overall, it's a good opportunity instead of having to buy completely new land.
Right.
The existing land you already have, you can build up on.
Yeah, because land is what's really expensive. It's not just the structure. The whole value really is in the land.
And so when it comes to SB 9, there's 2 different ways of looking at it.
Right.
You can do something called a lot split. Is that correct?
When a lot of people hear about SB 9, the first thing that comes to their mind is a lot split. And they're like, I don't want to do an SB 9. I don't want to split my lot. I like my lot. I don't want to make changes here. And what we a lot of times have to explain is that, with SB 9, you have 2 options. You can do a 2-unit development, which is kind of what we're talking about, or you can do a lot split. And the lot split is great for some investing strategies or some lots. Say you have a corner lot that's pretty good size, say 10,000, 12,000, 15,000 square feet. What you can do is if you're in a corner lot, you can split it strategically and get 2 lots with single family homes on them. And then, say you can sell one, or
Right.
you can just rent it
And
out or whatever.
it being on a corner lot probably helps you with driveways,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah.
So you have 2 different access points after
Yeah.
it's split, right?
Yeah. And not just corner lots. I mean, you can do it on various different.
I imagine you just have to have some sort of access
Correct.
to be able to divide that and have access for the back house.
Correct.
Or depending on if it's not a corner. Interesting. And then can you sell that split lot after?
Yeah, because it's a separate parcel, right? So when a buyer of that new house with a new lot goes to the bank to get financing, the bank is going to see a separate parcel. It's not going to be any different than any of the other homes that they provide mortgages for.
So if you're a homeowner out there that has a lot of land, you could technically lot split and sell that off
Correct.
as a retirement or whatever to benefit your financial
Yeah.
needs. If it's just sitting there, why keep it?
Yeah.
Obviously it depends on who you are and your future, but I think there's a lot of people out there with big lots that don't utilize it or just overall don't like maintaining it, that don't know about this. And in theory, they can definitely make a good chunk of money by selling it off.
There are actually companies out there who do just that. They target properties that have a large unused backyard, and then they reach out to the homeowners and say, hey, I got this backyard. How about we'll fund everything, we'll pay you for this lot, we'll fence it off, make it super private, and we'll put a house there.
This is pretty common. Yeah, but if there's somebody out there that doesn't know about this, it definitely could help with retirement of some
Yeah.
sort or living in this expensive city.
Yeah.
So how can somebody finance this? Is this just like a cash thing? Like when it comes to building ADUs or SB9 or anything when it comes to additional structures? Is this a cash deal or how can you go about this?
Yeah, there's multiple ways to finance your ADU. The most common we see is usually a combination. It's a combination of HELOC, home equity line of credit or a mortgage, some cash savings, and sometimes even retirements, like 401ks.
What is a HELOC?
HELOC stands for home equity line of credit. Basically, like a credit line is kind of like a loan, essentially, like a second loan on your property. So if you have a property with a mortgage with an awesome interest rate, you don't want
Right.
to touch your 2%, 3% interest rate and refinance that. You don't have to do that. If you have sufficient amount of equity that you've built from value appreciation, then you can go to the bank, apply for a HELOC, and see what your options are.
Depends on how
Some
much
amount.
equity you have in your
Exactly.
house. And this is actually, from our first episode, we talked about our personal ADUs.
Yes.
This is what I did. So when I bought my house, it really needed a lot of work. So what I did to fund my ADU is over some time, I did something called forced appreciation. So I remodeled my house. I did as much as I could. So when the bank comes in there to reappraise the house from what I bought it from originally, I just did something called forced appreciation. They come in there and they reassess the value of what I've improved. And then they did give me a line of credit.
Nice.
So I took that line of credit. So not only did I get a nicer house that I wanted to do regardless, I was now able to borrow against that equity that I never had originally to build a income asset, which was my ADU. And as soon as it started renting, it paid for that HELOC. It paid for that loan in itself. So not only was I profiting, but it was also paying my debt.
Nice. And was the
Yeah.
HELOC enough to pay for the ADU, or did you have to? Oh, perfect.
Yeah. And in my experience, you only pay interest on what you touch.
Right.
Making sure that you understand that. Let's say they give you $100,000 in appreciation, right? Well, that sits in an account. You're not having to pay for that until you use it. If you use
Yeah.
$1, you pay interest on $1. So what I really liked about it is it gave me the opportunity to build what I wanted to build, but at the same time, I was conscious about what I was spending. So even though my build ended up costing, personally, I built it myself, and not everyone can do that, but I definitely saved a lot of money by doing that. But I had the funds available immediately. It was ready to build. There was no stalling. There was no nothing. I got through it, I think it was 3.5 months, very fast, and then I got it rented right away. So I was very strategic because obviously you have to pay interest on what you use. So I didn't want to get started, pause, pay interest out of my own personal pocket when I had everything lined up and it was a strategy. So if somebody out there is listening to this and you want to do this and you don't have the cash, It's very possible to do, but just make sure you have a game plan. Right?
Yeah.
That's my recommendation, because not everyone has the cash on hand.
Yeah, and that's actually a piece of advice that I always give, or a suggestion I always give to clients who are planning to get a HELOC. I tell them, get your approval, open up that HELOC, but consider waiting until the permit is approved, until you actually go ahead and take money out. Because like you said,
Right.
exactly, I mean, it's going to accrue interest,
Right.
right? And
Right.
But if you don't have the permit, what are you going to spend the money for? I mean, yeah, you can spend it on architects and city fees, but
Right.
they're generally a lot lower than construction.
Not everyone understands what soft costs are. Back to our original conversation of today, there are soft costs, meaning architectural plans, engineering plans, everything it takes to get to the point of breaking ground, meaning bringing it to a contractor and having a contractor execute those plans. Those cost money, and you have to go into it knowing that, and you have to have that cash or available funds ready to go. So a HELOC definitely does allow you to do it in the right timeline.
Yeah. What would you say your return on investment, your ROI was on your ADU project?
I think it was great. Overall, personally, it cost $60,000.
Nice. That's a good price.
Yeah, and I learned a lot. This was years ago, but I learned a lot. And if I could do it again, I know I could do it for cheaper, just based off of what I know now.
Yeah.
I really do believe going in with a strategy. Everything you do in life, having a game plan is a key to success.
How many years did it take you to recoup your original investment?
Let's say
Approximately.
2.5 years, 3 years.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So, here's the thing, 2 to 3 years. And remember, there is interest on your HELOC. So, to pay your interest on that.
Yeah.
So, yes, there are more costs if you dig deeper into it. But regardless, that return on investment, well under 6-7 years if you're throwing everything at it.
Yeah.
And then you have a passive income asset.
Yeah. That's also the return on investment that I generally see, like our clients, when they build an ADU, that's sort of what they see. About 4 to 5 years for garage conversions, slightly more for detached ADUs. And you can kind of do the math too, right? So say you got an attached garage and you convert that to an ADU for, say, about 100,000, give or take, and you're able to rent it out for about 2,200. If you multiply that by 12 months, you can see that about 4 to 5 years is what it takes generally to get the money.
So, and this is something that I think a lot of people should know. When you are deciding to build an ADU and you do want to use financing of whatever sort works for you, going into it, you definitely want to know, like, what is the cost of that building, right? So if you hire a contractor and you're in it for, let's say you're doing a garage conversion. I mean, today's rates with everything going on or costs, it's like 110 to 150 for a garage conversion. They can go wrong.
Absolutely.
So if that's the cost of what it is today, 110,000, 150,000, and you are doing a HELOC or you are financing of whatever works for you, understanding what that is going to take to pay off. Do the research. What are you going to rent it out for? And the best way of doing this is going on Zillow and finding ADUs. They're going up left and right. So you can actually test the market by seeing what is renting in your area and for what price. And you can really look at the assumption of a garage conversion or a ground up backyard ADU up to 1,200 square feet. You can see what those difference in costs are. Today's square foot pricing from a contractor could be anywhere between $300 and $400 a square foot. Yes, there are cheaper guys. I do believe you pay for what you get. There are people that do it for $250 a square foot, and I wouldn't steer you in that direction, but that's what it is. So when you break this all down from a garage conversion or a ground up ADU in the backyard, whatever it is, definitely assess what those costs are prior to going forward with it. If you're financing, understand how long it's going to take to get your return on investment, making sure your interest rates on that borrowed money are not outweighing you so much that this is a bad decision. So there are definitely some things that you need to think about prior to going into this. I do think it's a good investment, but you need to be knowledgeable enough to weigh your risks. Right?
Yeah, that's good. And when we talk about optimal strategies for making sure your money goes the furthest, it's not just construction and materials and who do you hire? Do you hire this contractor who's $300 a square feet or this one that's $280 a square feet? That's not the only thing that affects the price. There are also different things in your permitting and design process, that different decisions you can make to get the price down lower without affecting too much on the actual quality of your ADU, right? So there's this one thing about the square footage of the ADU that has a large impact on the overall cost, right? The way I think about it is in terms of kind of like your first number is 500 square feet for your ADU.
Okay. So you can build, how small? Let's just start with that. How small can you build an ADU? I mean, when do you have to get a permit?
Well, if you want an ADU, you always have to get a permit.
Exactly. What, I mean, I've seen people that build bigger than a shed, 12 by 12, 120 square feet. Obviously, you don't need that permitted because it's a shed.
Yeah.
But I've seen people try to pull off ADUs pretty small, 300 square foot ADUs, 250 square foot ADUs, things like that. Now, you said up to 500. At 500, what happens?
So at 500 square feet, hit with school fees.
What do you mean school fees?
So school fees are fees charged by the local school district on new unit developments, right? So if you have an ADU that's 500 square feet or more, generally at some point you can expect a bill from the school district. And typically, I believe it's around $5 a square foot that you pay.
Wow, it could be $5,000 right there.
Exactly. So what we suggest sometimes is if you are designing a one-bedroom ADU and you're thinking, I want somewhere between 450 to 550 square feet. If you build 510 square feet, let's say, you're going to have to pay that extra several $1,000s, that fee to the school district. But if you do 499, you may be able to waive that, right? And I'm sure, out of all the fees we pay, like as developers, contractors, and homeowners, the school fee is probably one of the best fees to pay,
Yeah, at least you're giving back.
Exactly.
Right?
We know where the money's going. Right. It's going to facilities, schools, and kids, But it's like, okay, if you want to build more, go like 600.
Does it fluctuate in pricing? Like when it comes to those impact fees? I mean, does that cost of a square foot change? Or is it just a one fee after 500?
No, it's for like the total. Well, the invoices that I've seen have been pretty bad.
Those are called impact fees.
Well, the way I see it, you could call it an impact fee. The way I see it is impact fees are generally separate in my head.
And what would those be?
Those would be like fees from different, could be utility companies, sewer, roads, like any infrastructure that unit or the people living there are going to be using, that the city considers that an impact on public infrastructure.
I see.
Right? And so anything over 750 square feet. So remember, 500 was for the school fee. 750 is generally for impact fees. And
for 750, it's impact fees. Okay.
And so generally you pay like permitting fees to the city for the building permit and all the review plan checks that they do. School fees separate to the school district, and the impact fees will be different. It can add up. Yeah, like one project that I remember in the city of LA, an SB9 project and an ADU project, 1,200 square feet plus 800 square feet. The fees just to the city were a little over $30,000. Just to the city, not including the architecture, engineering.
These are all costs that turn into variables when it comes to your bill.
Exactly.
Is there a way, obviously, understanding the 500 square foot mark, right? And then the 750 mark. If you are in the position to build an ADU, in order to save as much cost as possible when it comes to building it, you want to be conscious of how small you're building it, right? Under 500 square feet sounds like that's where you're going to get the best bang for your buck.
So for 2 bedrooms, probably the most requested floor plans is a 2-bed, 2-bath, 749 square feet. One of the bathrooms is a master bathroom suite with a master bed. The other one is guest. So that's the most common one.
Nice. And so you're by that 1 square foot, you're avoiding it. Wow. That's interesting. So there's some strategy involved when it comes to saving some money there. Yeah.
We recently started a project. It's a 2-bed, 2-bath, 749 square feet ADU in Arleta. It's a neighborhood in LA in the San Fernando Valley. And what we are doing here is we're basically building a 2nd-story ADU above the garage and above part of the house. The strategy in terms of financing that the client is going to do is actually really interesting. What they're going to do is they're going to get a HELOC for about $250,000, $300,000, something like that, because they have a lot of equity. And what they plan on doing is they plan on using every bit of rental income from that unit to pay down that HELOC as soon as possible. Right. And then once that's paid down, that's going to be their retirement. And it's
Very
so cool
smart.
because they have a beautiful house, pool, nice backyard, shed for all the tools and storage. So yeah, I mean, there's so many ways to approach
Yeah.
ADUs and use them for your benefit
Mm-hmm.
and for the benefit of the future generations, you know, kids, grandkids.
I love that. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, retirement sure sounds nice, you know, but we still got a while. They don't have to move
Right.
out of state, and there they are. So
Yeah.
that's the American dream. Well, thank you so much, and we'll see you all next time.
Thank you.